Today, we're going to dive into a truly harrowing story. It's about a woman who was condemned not by any real evidence, but by a conspiracy. This all comes from Freidoune Sahebjam's book, The Stoning of Soraya M, and I have to tell you, it is a deeply unsettling account of injustice that you just have to understand. Right from the very first page, the author hits you with these chilling words. He's making it crystal clear that this isn't just about one woman's tragic story. No, this is a symptom of something much, much bigger. He wants us to know right from the get-go, Soraya's case, it's just one of thousands. And here's the unbelievable part. This entire account, this incredible look into a hidden world, it only exists because of pure, random chance. The author wasn't there to find this story. The story found him, all because his car broke down in the middle of nowhere, in a remote Iranian village. Now, to really get the weight of this story, you've got to understand the man who told it. Freidoune Sahebjam was an Iranian journalist, and he didn't pull any punches. He was a critic of the Shah, and when the new regime took over in '79, he became their enemy too. In fact, he was condemned to death by Tehran, but get this, that didn't stop him. He kept going back into Iran on secret assignments, risking his own life to get stories like this out to the rest of the world. So picture this, it's the autumn of 1986, his car is busted and he's stuck in this tiny mountain village, just trying to keep a low profile. Then, an elderly woman sitting in her garden just calls him over for tea. That woman's name was Zahra Khanum, and she had a story she was absolutely desperate to tell. So they're having tea, and Zahra just drops this bombshell. She tells him her niece, Soraya, was publicly executed just 2 weeks ago. And then she adds the most important part of all, Soraya was completely 100% innocent. And that's where this story really begins. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around how something so terrible could even happen, we need to zoom out. We have to understand the world where this took place, Iran, in the really chaotic years right after the 1979 revolution.
This timeline really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? In '79, the revolution brings in a new fundamentalist regime. And just a few years later, the government itself is admitting to hundreds of stonings. So by 1986, when our story starts, this brutal practice had become a grim reality of the new order.
The author paints this picture of just total upheaval. The prisons were emptied out, and some criminals saw an opportunity. They started dressing like clerics, calling themselves mullahs, and just took advantage of the chaos. In this power vacuum, old, brutal customs like stoning were brought back, especially in these tiny, remote villages like Kupeya, far, far away from the eyes of the world. This is the stage for Soraya's story. So now, let's turn to the woman at the center of all this. Let's talk about the life of Soraya M. You know, Soraya's life was just one hardship after another, right from the very start. As a kid, she was sent to work for this abusive landowner. Then, at just 13 years old, she was married off to a man named Ghorban-Ali. And over the next 14 years, she went through 9 pregnancies, all while trying to raise her family. And the life she was living versus her husband's, I mean, they were worlds apart. While Soraya was stuck at home, raising 7 kids and putting up with his abuse, Ghorban-Ali had basically ditched them for a life of crime in the city. But it's his latest ambition, his desire to marry a 14-year-old girl, that becomes the spark that's going to light this whole deadly fire. Ghorban-Ali wants a new, younger wife, but he doesn't just want a divorce. Oh no, he's planning something far more sinister. This is where a conspiracy starts to form, a web of lies designed for one purpose, to trap his wife. So here's the crucial part, and it all boils down to one thing: money. You see, under the law, if he divorced an innocent wife, he'd have to support her. But if she was found guilty of a major sin, like adultery, he wouldn't owe her anything. He needed a way to get rid of Soraya that wouldn't cost him a single rial. But here's the thing, he couldn't pull this off by himself. He needed help. So you have this group of powerful men who come together, and each one has his own selfish reason for getting involved. You've got the husband, Ghorban-Ali, the new village mullah, Sheik Hassan, who's looking for revenge, a local widower named Hashem, who's easily pushed around, and the village mayor, who's just weak and easily manipulated. So the plot starts with the mullah, Sheik Hassan. He goes to visit Soraya and basically acts as a messenger for her husband. He lays out this divorce proposal, trying to sell it as this super generous offer. But Soraya, she just stays silent. And seeing her silence, the mullah thinks he sees an opening. He then makes his own slimy proposal that after the divorce, maybe he could take Soraya under his protection. Well, Soraya and her aunt Zahra, who's right there, they were disgusted. They furiously shut him down. The mullah was humiliated. And just like that, for him, this became personal. He wanted revenge.
And the most tragic part? They found the perfect excuse for their lies in an act of kindness. A local woman had died, and the village actually asked Soraya to help out her grieving husband, Hashem, with cooking and cleaning. This simple, decent act of community service, it would be twisted into the very weapon they used against her. So all the pieces are in place. The motive, the conspirators, the pretext, the trap was ready to be sprung. And they chose to do it in the most public, most humiliating way imaginable. He waits for market day. In front of the entire village, Ghorban-Ali just erupts with these disgusting accusations. He shames her publicly, turning whispers and rumors into a roaring fire, making sure that every single person there is a witness to her humiliation. From the village square, the whole scene moves into Zahra's house, which basically becomes the courtroom for the sham of a trial. The mayor starts questioning everybody, and this is where all their carefully planned lies are presented as if they were solid facts. And you just see it all fall apart. On one side, you have Soraya, and her defense is simple, because it's the truth. I was only helping, just like you all asked me to. But then, Hashem, the widower, who's now been threatened and coerced, he paints this damning picture. He claims she's always at his house, saying embarrassing things to him. His lie is the final nail in her coffin. And that number 2, that's why his testimony is so devastating. In this system, that's all a husband needed to prove his wife was unfaithful. 2 male eyewitnesses. It didn't matter if they were his buddies or part of the conspiracy. Their word was all it took. And that leads to this, the final, absolutely chilling question from the mayor. Just listen to how he phrases this. He completely flips justice on its head. He doesn't ask the men to prove their accusation. He puts the entire burden on Soraya and asks her to prove a negative, to prove her innocence against their word. It's an impossible question. Her fate was already sealed. And that's really the devastating question this book leaves us with, isn't it? It forces you to look at a world where power, lies, and hatred for women can just make the truth completely meaningless. Because in a system where an accusation is all the proof you need, innocence isn't a shield. It's just a tragic, irrelevant detail in a horrible story.